The trade war is back. The moment Donald Trump stepped back into the Oval Office, we knew the world was in for a shakeup. And now, it's here. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Is this the masterstroke that will truly make America great again? Or is it one final push toward an even deeper, more dangerous abyss? As a global superpower, every move the US makes sends shockwaves across the world economy. Even if you aren't American, your assets, your portfolio are on the line. Think back to what happened on April 2nd, the last time Donald Trump announced a major tariff increase. It wasn't just Wall Street that felt the tremor. From Taipei to Hong Kong to Kuala Lumpur, global stock markets plunged in unison. That's why you cannot afford to ignore what's happening right now. Even Donald Trump's former ally, Elon Musk, has come out swinging against the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. What critical investment signals could his opposition be sending? In this video, we're going to dissect this monumental bill and show you exactly how to position yourself for what comes next. Because the decisions made today could define the investment landscape for decades. Make sure you stick around until the very end. Welcome to the Stewardship Finance Academy, the channel that empowers you to become a confident strategic investor. President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act has officially been signed into law. What does this actually mean for the markets? Are we headed for a boom or a bust? Some critics are already calling it a classic case of robbing Peter to pay Paul, stealing from the poor to give to the rich. But from my perspective, Donald Trump is playing a much bigger game. He appears to be trying to fundamentally reshape the values and beliefs of American society itself. So, I encourage you to stay with me as I break it all down. Please, share your own thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. As always, the insights I'm sharing today are from personal analysis, intended for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. When it comes to your money, it is absolutely critical that you think for yourself, conduct your own research, and make your own informed decisions. So what are the pros and cons of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act in the grand scheme of things? Under the previous administration led by Joe Biden, the government placed heavy restrictions on using federal lands and waters for energy development. This new act completely flips the script. It includes provisions that compel the government to lease public lands in Alaska, the Gulf of Mexico, and across the western states, to oil companies for drilling and extraction. Furthermore, the bill slashes the royalty rates these companies have to pay the government. It also introduces a fresh wave of tax breaks and incentives specifically for coal, oil, and natural gas producers. To top it off, it boosts subsidies for carbon capture technologies, but with a twist prioritizing projects aimed at extracting even more oil. Essentially, these measures are a massive win for America's traditional petrochemical industry. It's also worth noting that this sector has historically been one of the Republican Party's most significant financial backers. With a substantial portion of GOP funding flowing directly from these corporate giants, over the next 5 years, the United States is set to increase its defense budget by a staggering $150 billion. A significant slice of this pie is earmarked for developing next-generation weapons, including $25 billion for a new Golden Dome missile defense system. This is an undeniable victory for America's top defense contractors, like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, who are positioned to reap enormous benefits from this surge in military investment. Meanwhile, the real estate sector also gets its share of perks. Commercial property investors and developers will now enjoy enhanced tax incentives, including the ability to fully deduct the costs of property renovations. The bill also expands support for developers building affordable housing. Tax credits for constructing these low-income residential units will increase by 12%. This program already delivers around 50,000 new affordable homes for Americans each year, and this boost aims to further address the nation's housing crisis. So how does this bill impact the average person? For starters, the act ends the federal tax on tips, meaning tips are no longer subject to federal income tax for qualifying workers. The act also expands tax exemptions for overtime pay. The maximum deduction for overtime earnings has been raised to $12,500 for individuals and $25,000 for married couples filing jointly. When I look at these policies, the message from the government seems clear. Get to work. The bill appears designed to encourage Americans to take on more shifts, put in extra hours, and be rewarded for their diligence. The spirit behind it can be summed up in one phrase: work more, earn more, and keep more. Here's where things get really interesting. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act establishes a brand new savings vehicle, the Trump account. Here's the plan. For every baby born in the United States, the government will deposit $1,000 into one of these accounts. Parents can then use that seed money to start investing for their child in stocks, bonds, or other American financial assets. On top of that, parents can contribute up to $5,000 annually, and here's the best part. All the money in the account, including all investment gains, grows completely tax-free. These funds are intended for major life events like paying for college, starting a business, or buying a first home. It's a cradle-to-adulthood approach to financial literacy, designed to get the next generation investing from day one. Finally, let's touch on a provision that's already stirring up major controversy. One that some critics have dubbed the Rich Dad Giveaway Clause. Under this new rule, the estate tax exemption has been dramatically increased. An individual can now pass down $15 million tax-free. For married couples, that number doubles to $30 million. To put it plainly, this means a wealthy couple's estate is not taxed at all unless it exceeds $30 million. Not a single dollar goes to Uncle Sam below that threshold. Opponents argue this will only accelerate wealth inequality, allowing massive fortunes to be passed down untouched. Supporters, however, contend it encourages family wealth building and reduces an unfair tax burden. Is it a giveaway? It's for the public to debate, but it is undeniably a significant tax break for America's wealthiest families. Now, let's look at the industries facing headwinds from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The first and most obvious losers are in renewable energy. The bill completely eliminates tax incentives for solar panels and wind energy systems. For years, these tax credits have been the lifeblood of the green energy sector, driving investment and adoption. Pulling them creates a formidable obstacle for the industry's future growth. Next up, electric vehicles. The current federal tax credit $7,500 for a new, even $4,000 for a used one are set to expire. On September 30th, there is one small exception. Buyers of EVs, assembled in the US, can receive a $10,000 tax deduction on their car loan interest. But even that incentive disappears after 2028. Here's the problem. Without subsidies, EVs are still significantly more expensive than their gasoline-powered counterparts. By removing these credits, the bill directly attacks the affordability of electric cars, which will likely put immense pressure on the entire EV industry. This move is a major blow to the clean energy transition in the United States. The bill also delivers a major blow to big tech, especially companies at the forefront of artificial intelligence. Previously, federal law prevented individual states from creating their own rules to regulate AI. This new act tears down that barrier. Now, every state government in the US is free to pass its own legislation governing AI companies. States like California and Washington could enact unique and potentially strict regulations targeting giants like Meta, Tesla, and Amazon. What kind of rules are we talking about? Imagine a state banning the use of AI to mimic a person's voice over concerns about deepfakes and identity theft. Or another state passing laws to shield children from potentially harmful AI-generated content online. For companies like Microsoft and Meta, this creates a potential nightmare. Instead of a single set of federal rules, they could soon face a complex and contradictory patchwork of 50 different state laws. This would dramatically increase their compliance costs, slow down innovation, and create a massive regulatory headache. This is a huge and unpredictable risk for the future of AI development in America. This next change will hit home for many American shoppers and the companies that serve them. For years, the US has had a rule that allowed consumers to buy goods from foreign e-commerce platforms, it's like those in China, without paying import taxes. As long as the package value was under $800, this created a boom for affordable online shopping. That exemption is now gone. Under the new law, all imported packages, regardless of value, will be subject to import duties. This is a double-edged sword. It hurts us shipping companies like FedEx and UPS, who have profited from the massive volume of small packages flowing in from overseas. It's even worse for low-cost Chinese e-commerce giants like Temu and Shein, whose entire business model relies on offering cheap goods to American consumers. Those low prices are about to disappear. This move is set to fundamentally reshape the dynamics of global e-commerce, impacting everyone from the American consumer to the logistics giants on both sides of the Pacific. Here's an impact you might not expect: the food industry. You might be asking, what does this bill have to do with food? Answer lies in food stamps. For decades, the US government has provided food assistance to millions of low-income households. This new bill, however, mandates drastic cuts to the food stamp program. This reduction will have a direct and negative impact on major food corporations. Companies like Kraft Heinz, General Mills, and Kellogg's rely on food stamp purchases for a significant portion of their sales. As these benefits are scaled back, these companies are likely to see a corresponding drop in revenue. This policy creates a painful ripple effect, hurting not only the vulnerable families who depend on this aid, but also the bottom line of some of America's largest food producers. Now, let's talk about Medicaid. This is a big one. Starting December 31st, 2026, a new federal work requirement will be enforced. Any able-bodied adult who wants to receive Medicaid benefits must either work or volunteer for at least 80 hours per month. That's 20 hours a week. The only people exempt are those caring for a dependent child under 14. Otherwise, no work means no Medicaid. This policy specifically targets low-income individuals. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act requires states that have expanded Medicaid to charge enrollees up to $35 for some medical services. If their incomes are between the federal poverty level and 138% of that amount, the underlying message here seems to be, if you are physically able to work, you must work. The days of relying solely on government support are over. The administration appears to be drawing a hard line: contribute to society, or you will lose your government-funded health benefits. Let's shift to the elephant in the room: the US debt crisis. The U.S. Treasury projects that this bill could add another $2.4 trillion to $3.30 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade. Recognizing this is unsustainable, the act includes several fiscal discipline measures. For the next 5 years, annual government spending increases are capped at 2%. Exceeding this triggers budget and staff cuts across all departments. Non-military spending growth will be capped at 2% for the next 5 years. This combination of tax cuts and military expansion isn't new. In the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan slashed income taxes while dramatically increasing defense spending to win the Cold War. The result? The federal deficit he promised to eliminate actually ballooned, and the national debt quadrupled. More recently, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act under President Donald Trump cut corporate taxes from 35% to 21%. The administration claimed the cuts would pay for themselves through economic growth. Instead, the federal deficit soared by 28% in a single year. History teaches us a clear lesson. Large-scale tax cuts rarely generate enough growth to offset the lost revenue. They only work if paired with strict spending discipline. When you cut taxes while simultaneously spending recklessly, the result is always a mountain of debt. Elon Musk has warned that the U.S. is driving toward a debt slave nation, and he may have a point. The historical record reveals 3 critical truths. Tax cuts don't pay for themselves. Both the Reagan and Trump tax cuts failed to do so, leaving behind massive deficits for future generations. Military spending is not a sustainable growth strategy. It can provide a short-term boost, but often forces cuts to vital long-term investments like infrastructure, healthcare, and education. Debt ceiling fights are not just political theater. In 2011, a similar showdown caused the U.S. to lose its AAA credit rating for the first time, rattling global markets. The stability of U.S. debt cannot be taken for granted. So what does the one big beautiful bill mean for the market? Which sectors are poised to win, and which should investors approach with caution? Let's start with the likely winners. Defense and military contractors. With an extra $150 billion flowing to the Pentagon, companies like Lockheed Martin and other government contractors are positioned for a massive surge in orders. Historically, when military spending ramps up, defense stocks soar. High-end tech and luxury goods. Tax cuts for high-income earners mean more disposable cash for stock market investments and luxury splurges. This could benefit large-cap tech stocks and luxury brands like LVMH, financial and real estate sectors, by raising the debt ceiling. The bill removes the short-term risk of a U.S. default, bringing relief to banks and insurance companies. Favorable regulations and infrastructure spending also signal opportunities for real estate developers. Construction, energy, and manufacturing. The focus on rebuilding America and reshoring manufacturing will directly benefit construction, materials, traditional energy, and engineering firms. Now, for the industries that could take a hit, clean energy and electric vehicles. These are the biggest losers. The elimination of subsidies for wind, solar, and EVs will shrink profit margins and dampen consumer demand. It's no surprise Elon Musk publicly called the bill insane. He knows it's a massive headwind for Tesla and the entire EV market. Big tech, the threat of a patchwork of state-level regulations, creates significant uncertainty and compliance costs for AI and internet platform companies. Cross-border, e-commerce, and logistics. The removal of the $800 duty-free rule directly targets the business models of companies like Temu and Shein, likely leading to reduced sales and hitting the revenues of shipping giants like UPS and FedEx. Given this new landscape, investors might consider reallocating their portfolios. It may be prudent to increase exposure to U.S. infrastructure, traditional energy, and manufacturing sectors while reducing exposure to green energy, EVs, and tech stocks that are heavily reliant on exports. In the bond market, expect long-term U.S. Treasury yields to remain high due to widening deficits. Shorter duration bonds might offer a safer haven from interest rate volatility. As for the U.S. dollar, it could face short-term pressure. However, if these policies successfully spark high economic growth, the dollar's long-term outlook may be stronger than it appears. So, what can you do to prepare? Diversify your assets. With uncertainty in the U.S., global capital may shift. Now's the time to review your portfolio. Ensure you aren't over-concentrated in U.S. stocks. Spreading your investments across different regions, and including safe haven assets like gold, can help protect you from single market shocks. Stay rational. Avoid panic. The U.S. economy is resilient. These changes will likely unfold over time, not overnight. The worst mistake you can make is letting emotion drive your decisions. Absorb the information, but don't blindly follow the headlines. Wait for the dust to settle and make calm, informed choices. Enhance your investment skills. In a volatile, policy-driven market, the gap between winning and losing stocks will widen. If you have a robust investment framework, you can identify undervalued assets poised for growth. This is the most important skill you can have. To help you, we're offering a free stock investment masterclass for a limited time. The link is in the description. By mastering our methodology, you'll be equipped to find undervalued opportunities anywhere in the world. When it comes to the one big beautiful bill, we must not panic, but we cannot afford to be complacent. This legislation is fundamentally reshaping America's economic priorities. In the short term, it might boost traditional industries and calm fears of a debt default. But long term, the risks of soaring debt and deepening wealth inequality are very real. As investors, our job isn't to pick a political side. It's to dispassionately evaluate the risks and opportunities these changes present. It's time to start planning your strategy now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.